Meeting tonight. It is 6:30. We do have a quorum, so we will get started. And we'd like to call the meeting to order. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Charles Alderson. Would y'all stand, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Charles. And our invocation by Linda.
Our Heavenly Father, thank you for this gathering. Thank you for the board, the concerned faculty, staff, administration, and community that's gathered here tonight. Lead and direct us to make wise decisions for this community. We ask this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And we are going to start with a student spotlight.
Ms. Bone is out sick today, so Ms. Webb, our assistant principal at Elementary, is going to give us our rundown here.
We would like to recognize today elementary student Tristan Butler. And Tristan is a second grade student, and he is being honored today. He was recommended by his teacher and also his reading teacher for his hard work and for his great attitude and the growth and progress that Tristan has made this year, because his teacher and his reading teacher said that he comes in every day and he gives it his all. And because of that, he has grown not only in reading and his other subjects, but also in his attitude and his work. And so we are very, very proud of Tristan. And at elementary, every month we have a character trait that we recognize students for. And this month is perseverance. And Tristan embodies perseverance. So we are very, very proud of him.
Tristan, before we take your picture and I give you the certificate that we made for you, I wanted to brag on you one more time that it's really neat to hear stories of our students who work hard and overcome a lot of things. And we love your attitude and your hard work, and it's paying off. You're going to do big things, okay? We're proud of you. So, Mom, Dad, we can take some pictures with him.
Scoot all together here.
We got the cue to move in.
Can you put little brother in there? With the walkie-talkie.
Everybody look here. Ready? 1, 2, 3. There we go. There we go. Thank you all.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a good thing.
Next, we would like to spotlight the intermediate school. Mr. Smith.
All right, so I have Ms. Angela Tyree here with me. We are in the first year program called our etiquette class. And you all know that 5th and 6th grade years are important years. That's when students are really developing those habits that are going to carry them into the secondary world. And so we want to make sure that we are instilling good habits and good work ethic and great manners. And so we have a new program, and I'm going to let her talk about it. But Ms. Tyree joined us this year with our staff, and she comes every Monday and works with our students. And we have about 30 or so, 35 students that she works with on a weekly basis on quite a variety of things to deal with etiquette and student manners and so forth. And so I'm going to let her kind of speak more to the details of it. But it's a wonderful program. We've already seen it pay off quite a bit with our students and how they take the lessons they learn in that class and then apply them to the rest of their day and their interactions with peers and faculty. So it's been a wonderful program, and we hope to see it grow. And Ms. Terry can talk about some details.
Thank you. Good evening, distinguished board members and amazing citizens of Gatesville. Given the opportunity to work in Gatesville has been absolutely amazing. It's been an honor to serve this community. I worked a little bit in Temple. I work with home students that do homeschooling. This community is outrageous. That's all I can say about it. The privilege is working with you guys and your children. We've had some success stories in my mind already. Children coming to tell me that they behaved at the dinner table. They behaved at the Papa's party. Those are the things that make me smile. And that they're taking things and telling their cafeteria buddies, get your elbows off the table. Those are the things that are working. We had 6 weeks originally. The first part of the class was behavior issues. And then when we got to the food, everybody in the whole school wanted to come. But we do 6 weeks originally of behavior in social environments. And they stayed through it. And now they're reaping the benefit of the food. And everybody else wants that. But again, thank you guys for giving me the privilege of coming here.
And I have taken no offense when you've corrected me. I've improved as well. So, Board, I don't know if you have any questions for myself or Ms. Tyree about the program. It's been a great success, and thank you for recommending it, Mr. Fisher.
You're welcome.
It's been well received.
Yeah, who would have thought the etiquette idea would come from David Fisher?
I'm going to take that as a compliment.
I want to say when I met with Miss Tyree here recently, she loves Gatesville. She talks about Gatesville all the time and how she admires us. So that means a lot to us. And you've got a great story of how you've overcome and persevered in your life and are a great role model for kids. So we're very happy to honor you tonight. So,
Thank you.
all right, picture time.
Ms.
Mary.
Tyree, you've said you've noticed some changes. What's the biggest change, or what's something that's really impacted the students?
The young men, and they actually stand up when a lady walks in the room or a VIP, and I don't have to ask them to do those things. It's a matter of respect. That's what I'm trying to instill first, is respect. And know where you are, understand your surroundings. We can talk about eating all day long, but it's not about that. It's about living in the world. And I've noticed that many of them come with many stories every weekend. There's something that they've done that their parents or someone else has noticed that they're doing something different in their lives.
That's great.
How did you select the 30 students?
I didn't.
We went through, we looked at the ones that acted like me, we said, get them. No, we got teacher recommendations and just knowing our kiddos, knowing which ones may benefit from a program like that. And we felt like that would be a good fit. So,
Are there plans to expand this?
we'd love to expand it. And I know Mr. Harper, who's been very instrumental in this program as far as helping get the details of it rolling, I think has discussed some things about that as well.
Yeah, and some of her other roles is being a character coach at the high school. So she's been interviewing students, finding out ways that we can better serve some of the clientele that we have that hasn't been served in the past, or that they have not been, we say, connected to school, getting involved in extracurricular, co-curricular. And Ms. Tyree and the other character coaches have done those interviews, and those names come back to us, and we start looking at how we can improve, their lot in life, and connecting them with mentors, or getting topics for our Keep It Real session. So they're out there with the kids during the day, talking to them and feeding us back information so our program can grow. We'd like our etiquette class to grow, to expand, but also our character coaches and mentoring. It's expanding exponentially. So we're not, we won't have enough of Ms. Tyree's, but hopefully we'll have her here to be able to direct that so others can fall underneath her tutelage, and then we can expand that to other campuses as well.
And a big thank you to Ms. Fincher for helping us make this connection and get this going.
This all came from military, from our school district's partnership with military, and Mr. Harper being assigned to that. So it's interesting how it all zigzagged down to the children of our community. So,
Ms. Tyree, we'd like to present this with you and take a picture with you, if that's okay.
Oh, post for you. Thank you. now.
Ready?
Thank you for doing all
Thank you.
this.
Appreciate you.
For guiding.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Get away from
Okay, moving on. Are there any public comments? Did anyone register?
Not that
to
I'm aware of,
speak?
no one gave me anything.
Okay.
Okay, well, January is Board Appreciation Month, and so we tease these guys a lot about the pay being terrible. They hear that joke all the time, but we want to really thank all of you guys for a lot of time that is spent fielding questions and calls and texts, and they come at all times of the day and night. I know that. And oftentimes, you know, the ones that come, or maybe it's something where you've got to look into something or something of that nature. And so we appreciate the sacrifice you guys make away from your time with families to do this, because not just everybody wants to come up here and do this. And so we came up with something as far as a little gift, a token of appreciation. Mr. Charles Lisenby, his construction students, made you guys a cutting board. And so each of these cutting boards are made from 7 types of wood. And so the students did an excellent job with it. He said if you would like to have it planed in half, a little bit thinner, they can do that for you. He recommended adding some mineral oil to it every couple of times a year just to keep it moist. But those guys did an excellent job, and we're proud to do this for you. There's also a certificate, and from our military partners, there's a notepad booklet there as well. And again, we can't say enough about how much you guys help us, and especially CTE. And so that's why we wanted the gift to be from CTE. And we've got a good idea for next year's gift as well from similar departments. So we're all ready for next year too. But you've got to be good, not naughty. And so, we also have Darren Moore's here, and Darren wants to share some appreciation as well.
Good evening, Ms. President Lee and members of the board. The Coryell County Commissioners Court also wants to recognize the members of the board for their dedication and their service to the community and our children that attend the schools and all of the districts in the county. And we have actually made a proclamation on the 14th of April at our last Commissioners Court meeting, and so we wanted to personally come, all of those that we could, and present this to each board this month, and just show our appreciation for what all of y'all do, for the sacrifice you make, for your dedication. I told Dr. Pollard that I was not going to read all of this, but there's so many points that are just so important, and they're not just words on this piece of paper. They were thought out, and they were meant to be heard. So if y'all don't mind, I'm just going to read this. Proclamation of 2019-03, School Board Reorganization Month. Whereas the mission of the public schools is to meet the diverse educational needs of all children and to empower them to become competent, productive contributors to a democratic society and ever-changing world. And whereas local school board members are committed to children and believe that all children can be successful learners and that the best education is tailored to the individual needs of the child. And whereas local school board members work closely with parents, educational professionals, and other community members to create the educational vision we want for our students. And whereas local school board members are responsible for ensuring the structure that provides a solid foundation for our school system. And lastly, which I think as a fellow elected official, I think is just as important as the commitment to the children, is that whereas local school board members are strong advocates for public education and are responsible for communicating the needs of the school district to the public and the public's expectations of the district. So now therefore be it proclaimed the Commissioners Court of Coryell County do hereby proclaim the month of January 2019 as School Board Recognition Month, and declare our appreciation to the members of the Gatesville School Board and urge all citizens to recognize the dedication and hard work of local school board members, and in working with the board members to mold an education system that meets the needs of both today and tomorrow's children. Thank y'all very much for your dedication and y'all's service to our community.
Thank you very much.
Great job, Rob.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, Darren. He's back. I'll get another one.
That's too nice to make a picture.
Well, we appreciate all the recognition. It's, we are here because we really care and we want to be, so thank you. Thank everyone here too. Moving on, we are going to look at the consent agenda. Are there any questions about any of it? I did want you to notice under E, there's a new report. Mr. Frazier is starting a year-to-date budget amendments to the fund balance, in case you were able to look that over. And are there any questions about any of these items?
I have a question as to how, my first question is, would anybody be objective to going into this consent agenda in more in-depth every month instead of just looking at it, I mean, actually looking at everything in it every month instead of just grouping it all as one thing? 10 minutes?
Anything in particular?
Well, I mean, usually you just say, oh, well, enough with the consent agenda, do we have a motion to accept? Or I'd like to go in and look at it, because sometimes I don't always have time to sit down and go through all of this stuff. But I mean, there's some stuff in here that I have a lot of questions on. I just don't know how the process works as far as, for instance, the school bus money. Wasn't that in the budget for this year? And now it's coming out of the fund balance.
Daryl?
I'm sure there's a...
It was taken out of budget and put into that 500,000 assigned.
Okay.
That we had talked about.
I remember talking about
There's not money there to cover the 72 passenger bus.
There were several things that were put into the 500, but the buses and vans were part of it, but it was taken out of the budget.
Okay, so it did come out of the budget into the
fund balance.
I'm sure there's a reason for that. Is it just, does that make it easier on record keeping, or?
It gets you to a zero balance.
On
Gets you to a balanced budget.
Okay.
At that particular item.
Okay.
I think the reason we pull all those together is, first of all, a time saver. If as we look through them, if we have questions, we can call Barrett or Dr. Frazier, Mr. Frazier, and ask questions before the meeting. And we can bring things into the meeting if you want to. It's just, that's a lot of information to go over every week, every month.
Well, it's
Well,
15 minutes,
could.
10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Well, if that's the length of time we would use, it might be longer than that. But if you have a particular question, it's a good time to ask before the meeting. Anybody else want to say anything about that?
I appreciate Daryl putting in the letter E, year-to-date budget amendments to fund balance, because we're trying to be more transparent and show you guys big ticket items that impact things. And so if you would like, it may be a situation where if that's the one that's got the most questions, that Daryl might present on that next month, if you'd like to do that.
We could do that. Maybe a future agenda item. Are there any other questions about the
I have a
consent?
question on the vital signs.
Okay.
The vital signs, there's a couple of them. The one that bothers me is our attendance percentage for the month and for the year. What do we base our budget on as far as attendance, student attendance? 95.5, somewhere in there?
That's correct.
We need to get on somebody and start contacting parents and even filing charges need be to get our attendance up where it needs to be. You start out with early education, you're looking at 90 percentile. Now, they don't have to be enrolled, but if they are enrolled, they're bound by state law to attend school. And there's a process anymore that you have to go through rather than just contacting the parent and filing charges. You have to make contacts with them, maybe find out why they're not getting there, and working with the parents or the student as much as you can before you can file charges. But 90 percentile, for every 1% that you're under 95 or for every percent you're under, whatever that is, 100%, it costs roughly the district $200,000.
So would you like to have that talked about more
Well,
in the
whenever.
meeting?
I mean, it's
Like
something that
next
needs to
time?
be addressed. And you can go right straight across here, looking at the attendance. There's only probably 2 or 3 grade levels that has 95.5 or above.
Okay, so future agenda items? Okay, we can add that too.
Mr. Alderson's right, that's something we need to work on. We did have one bright spot in the vital signs too, the enrollment. I think since January 1, we've had 22 more students enroll since the first of the year, so that was one positive thing as well. So.
Do I hear a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, John, second? Thank you. Cheyenne, any more discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand, please. Any opposed? Motion carries. Tonight, we have a special guest to present information about the TASB, the Texas Association of School Boards Executive Search Services. And while looking for a superintendent, they offer a service called the Executive Search Service. And this is Marion Strauss, Dr. Marion Strauss. And I did find the webpage that I would like to read about you. I was not stalking, but it was on there. Dr. Strauss joined TASB in 2011 as a field services representative and transferred to Executive Search Services in 2013. She served for 34 years in public education, including 21 years as superintendent in Somerville, River Road, Wimberley, and Pine Tree school districts. Dr. Strauss is a former executive board member of the Texas Association of Mid-Sized Schools and has served on the Texas Education Agency's Commissioners Cabinet. And some of you will be very interested in this part. She has a bachelor and master's degree from Texas State University and a doctorate from A&M. All right. I know somebody would say something. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you coming.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here with you this evening. There are our department, or you need this for your, okay. Our division of TASB is a small division. There's only 3 of us in Executive Search Services, but we are, you know, we travel throughout the state of Texas and we do a lot of superintendent searches. So both Butch Felkner and I do the searches, and both of us have been superintendents, and we feel like we have done searches in this area. We have served lots of districts, and we're honored to be here and to be asked to come. We know what an important decision this is, and we believe as your school board association, it's your decision. It's not for us to recommend, it's not for us to push anybody. We don't have a pool of candidates that we want you to look at. It is a new search. If you choose us to come in and do your search, we start at 0 and we build your candidate pool. And we believe it's your decision to select your new superintendent, and we know how important that is. We think you should see all the applicants. We don't pick a group for you to look at. We believe that everyone that applies, you should be able to see those, and you select those that you want to interview. Now, we're going to help you with that process. We're going to come in and help you narrow the applicants that you have, because in a district like this, I assure you, you're going to have a large pool of applicants that will apply. So we're going to come in and we're going to help you with that selection, by bringing you our information that we have on every applicant that applies. As Ms. Libb said, I started out in field services after I retired from the superintendency. I started out in field services, and what that means is we have 10 field service representatives or field service agents throughout the state of Texas. And I was actually your field service agent. So I called on your district. I had all of Region 13, all of Region 12, and a little bit of Region 15. And all I did was call on superintendents the whole year. So I walked into every superintendent's office about once a quarter. So I got to know the superintendents. Before I was your field service rep, Joe Dan Lee, who was superintendent at Georgetown, was your field service rep. Some of you know him. And so we have a field service representative that walks into every school district in the state of Texas about once a quarter. We know every superintendent, and we get to know what's going on very quickly in school districts by the visits that we make into school districts. We also know the up-and-coming people that are in a school district, the assistant superintendents, the deputy superintendents. We get to know those people through the superintendent so that we see, thank goodness, there are people that still want to do this job, and we get to know those that are up-and-comers. So we're going to have, we're going to look at this from your perspective. We represent you. We don't represent the candidates. We represent the school board because we're your association. We do more searches than anyone else in the state of Texas. And some people say, well, doesn't that mean you do too many? And this is all I do. If I'm not at a board meeting, and I have to tell you, this is my favorite board meeting to attend is when it's school board recognition. And congratulations, by the way, and thank you for your service. But I have seen some amazing things the month of January that just really kind of crack me up when it you know, and it can go on for hours. School board, this was very, very nice and very, your cutting boards are amazing. I think those are amazing. I have a very good friend that makes those, and it's amazing how much he sells those for. So that is a very nice gift. But so this is one of my favorite meetings to attend. So congratulations on that. But we represent your perspective. And we do more searches than any other search firm in the state of Texas, but we specialize in that. And we feel like we know the districts, and we understand that when you're looking for a superintendent, you have to find someone that understands the culture. There is a special culture here in your community. It's not like the culture 30, 40, 50, especially 100 or 200 miles away. And so it's important that when we start telling people about your opening and about your district, that they understand the culture of your district and what you're going to be looking for. And we're going to help you with that. You're going to get the whole team. You're going to get all of the field service agents. You're going to get our legal division to help us in case there's any legal questions that come up. You get our HR division because we're going to bring you the latest salary and benefits information throughout the process. We're going to show you what districts in this service center, in districts in Region 12, everyone is making in Region 12. And then we'll also share with you what districts throughout the state of Texas are paying their superintendents that are the same size as you, within about 400 or 500 kids. So you'll have some pretty good information if you're thinking maybe you're not exactly where you need to be. You'll have really good current information about those things. Everything we do is electronic, so you will receive all the applications electronically. And I will tell you, our system is very easy to use. You'll get 2 emails, and you'll be able to go in and get into the applications. They're arranged for you so that all the sitting superintendents are first, alphabetically. then you'll have the deputy and assistant superintendents, then the central office, then principals. So it's very easy for you to go through and maneuver through the candidates. If someone says, can't do it, we don't have very many of those anymore. We used to when I first started. We can give someone access and they can print. But I will tell you with the applications that you will have, you'll probably have about 1,200 pages worth, at least over a ream of paper. It would take for one of you to print the information that you will receive. So just FYI, it's a lot of information. When you select us, we're going to advertise both throughout the state and nationally, because all of the sister organizations of TASB, the other school board organizations, pick up our searches. So you may not be interested in anyone from out of state, but I will tell you, you will have some applicants from out of state, because a lot of people want to come to Texas, and you'll have some applications from out of state. We're going to handle everything, both administratively, for you. We're going to take all the applications, we're going to make all the contacts, send all the emails as reminders that the deadline is approaching. We're going to keep as much work off of Marcy as we possibly can. We know she has enough work to do, and we're not going to put any more on her. We may ask her to make a copy once in a while, just right before we get here, but that would be as much. And we will send her all of the postings. We send what's called a contact person book, and it will have all the wording and all the verbiage for every posting, for every meeting that we will attend. And it even has press releases and anything else that she might need throughout this process. So we're going to be there in continuous support of her. And we're going to be there after the search. I know I've seen lots of you at convention and SLI, and I'm always there. I'm in the hallways, I'm doing presentations. Some of you may have come to our presentations, but we're always at the TASB events. So we're not going to disappear after the search is over. We want it to be successful so that you can come to our presentation and tell the other boards in the state how successful it was, and we do that regularly. So when we come in, the first thing we would do after, if you select us, is we would come in and do a planning meeting, which would be in the next couple of weeks, and we'll get all of the dates down on your calendar, because it's very important that the end of the search is something that you all have on your calendar and you're all able to attend. The beginning is not nearly as important as the end. When you're interviewing, selecting applicants and interviewing, that's when we need all 7 of you here. So we would do that very quickly to make sure that everybody can make the dates. And we know it's going to change throughout the process, and we'll work with, we'll make that work. We'll try to make it so that everybody, and that happens in all various ways. Some boards have people that work and they just can't make weekdays work. They're either shift or whatever, and I've had boards interview all 6 or 7 on a Saturday, or they'll do, usually it's 3 nights, like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 2 per night. But if they can't make that work, we've done it all different ways. So we're going to make it work with you. We'll make it work. We're going to ask you to sign a confidentiality oath. We want this to be a confidential search because our candidates know that our searches are confidential, and it ensures that you get the best candidates. At the end of the day, you're going to select one person. Everybody else has to go back home. They all have to go back to their districts, and so we want it to be confidential so that it's not in their local newspapers that they applied at Gatesville, because it's hard to go home. It's hard when you've been out interviewing somewhere else. We're going to give you 3 hours of board training for the meeting that you have have where you select the candidates to interview, you will get 3 hours of board training. So that's always a welcome welcome information. And after you select your superintendent, we recommend that within the first 90 days that you have the transition session. And it's something we've added in the last year or so, and it's LTS Orrin Moore. If you've been to any of his sessions, I don't know, he's with LTS, but he comes in and goes through a session with the board and the new superintendent to sit down and talk about those things that are really important to talk about that sometimes we just get too busy, especially when you have a new leader in place and they're trying to get everything done that they think they need to get done. We've found that if boards will take the time to sit down and actually talk about what is it we want you to do in the first 3 months, the first 6 months, and then here's what we're going to evaluate you after the first year. If you will take the time to do that in the first 90 days, it will make that first year so much better and so much smoother. So we've designed a session that is at no cost to you, just Orrin's travel here, and they come in and do that within the first 90 days. Our cost is based on your ADA. None of it goes to me. It goes back to TASB and supports your training and back to supporting the public schools and the kids of the state of Texas, which I know you have a lot to be proud of. Just watching what went on here tonight was very heartwarming and rewarding. Our price is competitive. Again, it's based on our ADA, on your ADA. It includes everything. It's all inclusive. So it includes all our travel, our fee, and it's in the board president's packet. She's the only one that got it. I think Butch is the one that does that at $6,800, and that's for everything. And it includes all your advertisement, so you won't get a separate bill. The only thing is if you decide as a board you want to do a site visit to the home district of the candidate that you choose, that would be a district expense. And then usually about 99% of our districts, when they invite candidates back for the second round interview, they will pay their expenses, and that's not included also. So those are the only two things that would be in addition. So again, you know, we know every superintendent in the state of Texas, and we feel like we're going to represent your best interest as a board. And I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. I tried to make this as short as possible. You have a long agenda, and I didn't want to make it any longer. So what questions can I answer?
Well, you have a long ride home.
Oh,
so
no, it's fine. It's okay.
Are there any questions? Thank you for the packet.
Yes, that's just some general information that we put in our packet. My contact information is there, so just if there's anything that I can answer, but we're available. It will either be, you will always see either Butch or I. He hasn't decided which one of us would be assigned, but it's one of us, and we would be at all the meetings that, so.
Okay. Anybody?
Thank you.
We
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Oh,
making
you're
the
welcome.
trip,
Thank you
and
for having
we'll be
me.
in touch.
All right.
Thank you. And if I were you, I'd go ahead and go home.
I will. The fun stuff's over.
Okay. Moving on, we have information items.
Well, tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the cross-country track, and I have Coach Elliott Kelly here to help me a little bit, and Bruce Toms has also sent in a message to Mr. Fincher that he's going to share with us as well. But the cross-country track, so to speak, is basically a dirt pathway, and so we had some really good, fortuitous timing at Miss Energy came to us and wanted an easement to get to the gas pipeline and to keep it going. And so in return for us allowing them easement to that and digging up some areas, kind of they're coming in from 36 right there behind Hillside, they wrote us a check for $25,000. And so we are wanting to earmark that money, all of it, to make sure that we do this track right. And so there's a material, I think it's called millings, that's crushed up, black tar road, I guess, that is able to be spread over. And when it heats up, it smooths, and it's good for runners to run on, apparently. I should know, I'm a professional runner. So Coach Kelly is here to give us a little bit more information on the technical side and what this would do for the kids, Elliot.
Yes. I didn't know I was actually presenting it. Yeah, this need actually, we've been thinking about it and working on it a little bit here and there, hoping it would get done soon, but it really came from safety of the kids. Every Monday we do long runs in cross country. We end up running up and down Bridge Street. And I can tell you stories, but it's not real safe. And I've had people call in, probably to y'all, saying, I see kids out there, and you know, we have reflector vests, we have everything that we have going. I even bought flashlights for them, little dollar flashlights to carry. But being out on the road, just unsafe. Up there, we could get a mile around there. That would be an all-weather track with this millings. It would keep mud, rain, everything that hinders us from being on that track. We have to go to the road. So that's something that we could do on long run mornings. You know, it'd be a mile, so it's a lot better than running on the track, you know, 4 times around. Also, it keeps from wear and tear on the track. Also, there is a place we've had to travel to Fauntleroy before. Well, now you know Fauntleroy is closed. We can't even go down there anymore. So it fills a lot of needs. It's also going to be there for community members. You know, we have a lot of community members come up to the track. They walk around in lane 1, and you go look at lane 1, and it's worn out. And it would be another place for community members to go to that's safe. You can go down to Fauntleroy when it was open, and there's some shady characters down there sometimes. It's dark. And so this will be where traffic is, out in the open for everybody to see, and a safe place for people to go walk, even with their dogs. And people have baseball games, they practice out there. Parents can go walk around. So it's not only just for the students, it's for the community, and I think we can get it for a great deal.
It's approximately $10,000 per mile, but we're going to go ahead and just keep all that money in case we need more than a mile. We want to make sure we do it right. So, David, Mr. Toms shared something as a parent perspective.
You know, would you kind of introduce Mr. Toms? You work with him, I'm saying.
Yes, Mr. Toms, he has 2 kids in the system, 2 daughters, and he helps out all the time. He's always goes on the long runs with us, you know, so we can have somebody in the front, somebody in the middle, and somebody in the behind. So we can always watch out for kids, but Mr. Tom shows up every morning. He's very active. I know he ran for school board at some point. Very active and always wanting to make better for the kids, for all kids.
Okay, so what Mr. Toms, he wanted to be here, but he's at a soccer game with his girls tonight. But he said, wanted to say how much I support and provide some insight. I have seen many injuries because of the current path is either too wet or too dry, has cracks that could swallow a small child, which we know here in Central Texas that can't happen. It says, while coaching junior high cross country the past 4 years, we've had over 10 of our own get injured and numerous from other teams during cross country races. We have had teams not come to our events because of the course is so bad, and this is a loss of money for us. Many now go to McGregor or an alternate race the same weekend. This multi-use path will be a good for all campuses and sports, providing a safe and measured area for PE and required fitness activities. Additionally, track, cross-country, soccer, and other sports will benefit from having an on-campus location to do trials and practice without overcrowding the track or unsafely going off campus. Finally, the community use of this will bring in community events and other activities. The only thing I wish we could add is some lighting in the back so during those early fall mornings or late winter and summer nights the kids could see the footing and it would provide a safer environment. Thanks, was hoping this could be provided in my stead. Appreciate it. He wished he could have been here.
Thank you.
but he said he would have talked longer.
He brought
So y'all got the short version.
He brought up McGregor. McGregor has a beautiful track, and you know, we talked about even early on. We went to the city and the county. We said, "Can we split this?" And they said, "We don't have any money right now. We can't." And we really didn't either. But now, if we can get this earmarked, we do. And like I said, even when it's a drought, you can't run because of the cracks. When it rains, you can't run. We make about $10,000 at our cross country meets when we have invitationals. My whole budget, I think, is $8,900 or something like that. So we actually make more than my whole budget with cross country. And I know a lot of times we haven't allotted the money to cross country. You know, you just go run. But this would be a great time, I think, to do that, invest in that.
So we have the money.
We have the money. Charles.
Yes.
I did a little research and asked cross-country coaches just to find out what you were looking at. And I'm not against reworking the track, don't get me wrong.
Yes, sir.
But when you start putting down this millings, which is nothing more than crushed up asphalt that's out here on the road, that stuff is going to get compacted and it's going to get hard. And what the cross-country coaches are telling me is when you run these kids the miles and the miles and the miles that they run on, you're going to get shin splints. And that is something that you even get up here on a all-weather track.
Yes, sir.
And that's going to be a major problem that you're going to have. A walking path or a jogging path, that would be excellent.
Yes, sir.
But you start putting these kids on that asphalt, hard, compacted track, running them miles and miles, they're going to get shin splints, and they'll even develop into stress fractures.
Mr. Olson, I'm glad you asked, and it brings up another point. There was another quote. Okay, I actually got another quote from a company out of Round Rock, and they told me that crushed granite costs about $33,000. So if we could up it, hey, we can go crush granite and make a nice track.
Their suggestion was to get compost. Compost is cheaper than the millings, I believe. So all I'm saying is I think we need to look at other options rather than this hard compacted surface, because the kids are going to have trouble if you put them on that hard surface.
Right, and we are running on the road right now. And you know, my idea is let's do something. And I like the fact that if we can just be open to doing something and we can get it rolling. We do have district next year, and that means we'll have 2 meets here. So if we can just get it done by next year with the best path, the negative to the compost is the compost moves a lot. You want it to move a little bit, but you don't want it to move a lot, and you don't want it to be road. So under my understanding, and I'm not, you know, you talk to a lot of people, the millings will move a little bit more than a compacted road. It will get compacted. So you're all right about that.
But the other side, you've got to remember, when you're running cross country and we had a wet fall, your regional and your state meets are run over the hill and dale. And there was even one kid at the regional meet last year, they lost a shoe.
Oh yeah.
In the mud puddle.
Yes, sir.
You know, running the race. So I mean, you've got to understand you're not going to be running this real nice surface track when you go to cross country meets.
Right. Those regional meets also, you know, they bring in a lot of money and they don't have any options. They have to run it. Mm-hmm. And our course would be practiced on almost daily, and we would get a lot of wear on it. And if there was no grass, or there was, which there's not a sprinkler system up there, there has to be some kind of path that we can pound on and that will last and be good for everyone.
So
Ideally,
these people, oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Ideally, it would be find some nice former rancher around here, had a real nice manicured field. I mean, grass is what you want.
Yes, sir.
To run on.
Ideal.
Just for the legs and feet and whatever else, but I'm
so
sorry.
the person you asked, did they did this, or they were just saying?
No, they're cross country coaches.
Okay, because we have this on our road at our house, and it's only compacted where you drive. So like where we don't drive in our circle, it's still kind of loose like granite. It's only compacts where a car has gone over it multiple times, because even in the middle, Ricky's always like, move over, because in the middle, it's loose. I can't drive right. And then on the sides, it's loose.
But if you don't compact this, if I'm not mistaken, this asphalt comes out in great big, like rocks.
Some of them, but you can
That's
scrape
what
that
you
off.
got to be really careful with where you get your millings. The road surface itself makes a lot of difference. We're milling 1.5 inch and 2 inch thick asphalt in Harker Heights right now, and you're getting chunks this big because you're pulling up what it is, it's a big drum that's got teeth on it, and it rotates with those teeth, chip that asphalt off. Now when you're milling asphalt that's 8 inches, 10 inches, 12 inches deep, then you're just cutting it out, and you get, sometimes we've had some that comes out looks like coffee grounds, and man, that stuff is beautiful.
Yeah.
But over time, the heat will melt the liquid asphalt in the hot summer, and it's going to stick back together. And when you get through with it, it's going to have spots in it that are stuck together more so than others.
I nearly think you're going to have to roll it anyway.
Yeah, so it needs to be
Put it
needs
down.
to be compacted somewhat, maybe with a small roller. I don't know. Did I read somewhere that the county or the city had agreed to come in and blade it and roll it? And
I think we
Yes.
investigated that and they said yes.
The last time we talked to Justin Latham from County Roads and Bridges, he said that if we went through the commissioners and everything, that they could do all the work and use their equipment just for the price of diesel.
right, and you're trying to get a ground cover. You're not trying to build a road out of it to drive your car down. So,
Right.
but it takes a pretty good blade operator to get it at 2 inches thick. If you're going to try to get any thinner than that, which really it wouldn't hurt if it was thinner than that for a jogging trail, but you got to have a pretty good operator, and they may have. I'm not familiar with that.
Sure they do.
So if you use the decomposed granite, that stuff packs back hard as granite. It's hard also.
Well, I haven't, I'm not a rock expert, but I know I've went to other places. I know the place in McGregor, it looks like they started with road base, which is just the white stuff you see. And then I think it took them a couple years, they came to agreement, and then they came in with the crushed granite. I went there recently just to check it out again. It looks like they might have got low or it got compacted and they put some pea gravel on it. So.
Is that track area over there on the SpaceX side
Yes,
of the
sir.
schools? Okay.
Well, okay, we have the money.
Well, this was an informational item. It doesn't eclipse the 50,000 mark, but we wanted to keep you guys in the loop. So if you see stuff going on back there, for one, you'll see the Atmos Energy people working, and then after that, we'll do something. And so the Atmos Energy project should end at the end of March, is when that superintendent of that program said it should be done. But we want to do something to help the track and to get the kids something better. So we'll investigate a little bit more, and we'll have to make some decisions on whether or not we go with the compost, the millings, or if we chip in another 8,000 and go to the top of the line. So we'll have to kind of do some research and think about it. So, but we appreciate y'all weighing in. I didn't know you guys had done some good research. Millings experts. So that's good. That's good. That's helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What about like crusher fines and stuff? I mean, that stuff's cheap, cheap, and that's the good part about the crusher fine. What it is the sand-like stuff that comes out of a rock crusher. It's waste to them. They sell it for $250, $275 a ton, and it's not like sand. I mean, it won't clump together. It won't stick together because it's actually little bitty particles of rock. But I don't know.
Crusher fines will pack down back to solid bleaching when you pack it.
Well, but if you just
Maybe
spread it, I
think
mean,
it's-
if you didn't run a compactor over, if you just
Just a period of time
just
with
foot
water.
traffic.
Yeah. It's ground up bleaching is what it is, and it goes back to bleaching.
Well, it looks like Mr. Webb is ready to go.
That's your cue. That's your cue. Shane's anxious.
just listening.
This is his first one. He's anxious. No, going back, running's tough. So whatever we put out there, it's going to be hard. It's hard on your body running, and so. But we'll
That's
look
why I
at
don't do it.
Yeah. We'll look
Run
into
anywhere.
it.
Good run.
Well, Mr. Webb is here tonight to give us an ACT update.
Good evening, guys. Just wanted to give you a brief update on the ACT test. And everybody, you guys know that the ACT test is a standardized test used for college admission. So a kid wanting to go to college is going to take the ACT test or the SAT test, and depending on their scores, depending on what college they might be able to get into. But I just kind of wanted to give you guys an update. We get a 5-year trend from ACT every year, just kind of letting us know how our graduating seniors are performing on the ACT test. So I kind of made this chart here for you guys, and sorry about how it's kind of off when it converted programs, it moved it over. So, but you can see in 2014, so we had 77 graduating seniors take the ACT test, and then the scores, the district scores and the state scores. So in 2014, our kids scored a 20.8 on average, and the state average was about 20.9. And so, beginning with the 2015 year is when we started the graduating year. I guess in the fall of 2014, we started offering the ACT test during the school day, to where we could have more kids take it as opposed to going and taking it on a Saturday. And so you can kind of look, starting with the year 2015, 2016, and 17, we had more kids, graduating seniors, taking the ACT test. And so you can kind of see their performance for the district and state, that we're performing right at around the state average, maybe a little bit lower than that in some cases in some years. Go on to the next one, Dr. Colley. And so I just kind of wanted to give you guys an update of how many tests that we've given each school year since the 2014 and 2015 school year, when we started offering them during the school day. And our very first year that we offered them during the school day, we had 128 kids take advantage of it. And you can see that kids 10th through 12th grade are eligible to take it during our school day testing. Now typically the 10th graders, our recommendation is that they take it the spring of their sophomore year, because they have and they've had Algebra 2. So because it's more of an Algebra 2 based math part of that. And so 2015 and 16, we had 137 kids take advantage of it during the school day. And then 2016-17 was the first year that we offered it in the fall and the spring, because you can offer it twice a year, once in the fall and once in the spring. And so that's when we started that, and we had 156 kids that year. We had 146 in last school year, and right now this school year, we were projected to have 265 tests given. So we had 140 in the fall, and right now we have 125 signed up for the spring. And so we credit that to a little bit. You know, we have an advanced academics coordinator at the high school that kind of pushes the the dual credit AP and these ACT tests and SAT, and being prepared to go to college. So I just wanted to give you guys a quick update, just kind of let you know where we were. ACT tests. We haven't started the SAT. They just started a school day testing, so we're investigating possibly adding SAT as a possibility in the future. So, does anybody have any questions about that? Yes, Ms.
The ACT is also given to some 7th graders or 8th graders. Do they still? I mean, they still do that, but they have to go to another place.
Correct. They have to qualify for that. It's the Duke TIP program. And they have to meet a qualifying score on their one of the 5 tests that they take in 5th or 6th grade. Okay. And they have to score in the 95th percentile, 95 or above on one of those 5 tests. If they score 95 or above on one of those 5 tests, then they're eligible to take the Duke TIP. Now I've tried to, but the problem is so the Duke TIP is the ACT, but they have to sign up on a Saturday.
Right.
They're not. They can't take it on the school day. Now I've talked to Duke TIP about our kids being able to take that, because we think we would have more kids interested in taking that if we could get on where they're not having to travel. Because what's happening to our ACT test here at Gatesville now is we offer it on Saturdays, but we have so many kids that are taking it during the school day now. They canceled our Saturday test because we don't have enough kids taking it, and so they sometimes at Duke TIP, if a kid's taking it in Gatesville, there's a chance it could cancel that test.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But Duke TIP's just not there yet. A lot of their systems are old. Like I just started getting a CD. They send me a CD of how our kids are performing. So each month we have new kids take the ACT. They send me a CD where we can load scores. But I don't even have a CD reader on my computer. So, I have to go find it. So hopefully in the future those things will start to change. They're just slow in the process.
Yeah.
But yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Any other questions?
Any questions?
All right. Just wanted that to be an information item for you guys.
Thank you very much. Moving on, renovation update.
So we wanted to, it's been a little bit of time since we've talked about the high school renovation. And the renovation is an exciting project. It's also a very big, daunting project. And so we wanted to give everybody just a moment to stop and to summarize where we're at and where we're wanting to go with it. And so you know, I've already started to hear some rumors like, well, it's been nixed, you know, and so we wanted to try to make sure to clear up any types of confusion or whatnot. It's on hold right now while the board's kind of trying to determine a superintendent decision. But I wanted to kind of give a brief synopsis, and then Daryl will go into a little bit more detail. But I think I have heard and sensed a great amount of support for the project. You know, I think that we collectively know that that's an aging portion of the building, 1955. There's some major leaks that are really bad. There's also the fact that from a security standpoint, it's wide open in the back, it's easily accessible. And so I think that there's a large outpouring of folks wanting to do something about that. You guys have picked a good couple of working partners. They're your architect and your construction company, and so we've had good dealings with them. That's been a good partnership so far. The main thing tonight that we wanted you, the board, and the public to hear, especially for the first time, is that we truly believe that the scope and scale of the project is really too much to be funded strictly from the fund balance. That to try to accomplish this the right way and to do it right and to get it all accomplished, that to risk trying to take all of that out of the fund balance would be a very risky proposition. That it would deplete it to a certain point to where it would just be like with your own personal finances. You know, you have a point early in your lives typically where you don't have any savings and you're living month to month. We don't want to get like that with our school checking account, basically. And so we have some schematics, we have some designs, even that's not complete. We want to do some things, we're still looking at it, we're still getting input. We want that to be right. And then once we have that correct and we've gotten lots of input and feedback, then we'll have a better idea of the cost. Now we're pretty confident that the cost is probably going to be around $18 million. And Daryl's going to go into that a little bit more here in a minute, and that's a conservative estimate in the fact that it shouldn't go anywhere past that. That is being aggressive as far as the amount of money it should cost. And so we're going to talk a little bit about $9 million being something that we're comfortable putting up out of the fund balance and then laying it at the feet of the community where they make the decision on whether or not that we do a bond for the rest of it, or if they say, no, we think you should just scale it down to $9 million. And so that's kind of the issue or predicament we're in right now. And so the main thing we want to get across to you tonight, though, is that financially we're in great shape. We have an excellent fund balance. Our first rating is perfect, AAA bond rating. We're in great shape, way better than most districts. And so we just don't want to jeopardize that. At the same time, we want to make sure we get something done. Another thing that I hear a lot is that if you build something, we want it to be nice, but watch out for extra frills. Be conservative with making sure that it's not a Taj Mahal. I hear that a lot too. And so I think that's something that we're very conscious of, and we want to do. We want it to be nice. We want to be proud of it. We want it to be safe. We want it to fix a lot of issues that we have right now, but we want to make sure that it's not anything that we can cut out, we can do away with. So before we go into Daryl's more detailed, what are your first thoughts when you hear that?
Functional.
Functional. Making sure that it's something that students can use and that it's worthwhile. Okay.
But I like your like, for lack of a better term, no frills approach also.
I'm not sure I want to commit to full $9 million either.
I
I
like
think
the
you need
idea
something
of
a little more in
splitting it.
reserve.
Splitting it with the community, I like that idea.
Sure.
Yeah. We want it to be able to have enough, like what you're saying, Charles, in the fund balance to where if something crops up, a project for $200,000 or even $2 million or whatnot, there's still money there that you're not fretting and wringing your hands like, we're not going to be able to do this. And so when you get into construction, it's near impossible to do something of this scale without having at least a small bond. And so Daryl's going to get into more of what the big $1 million question is, what impact will it have on my taxes? And so he has some numbers for us tonight as well. Y'all have any other before we go into that?
I have one, it doesn't change a thing, but you're saying the age of that building's 1955?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's 65.
The 1965 was when it was built?
Yes.
The back part's 55 though. If you look at that plaque there by the auditorium, the one you spent this 50, yes sir.
Boy, would I be wrong. First time. Okay, now, I knew, You see, I remember when it was built,
Yeah.
because I was in school back then and playing in the gym in the school, and we didn't play in that gym until 1963. And the football field was played in a year or two later. So that's when the school was completed, was in like 63, maybe 2, give or take.
And there's some other things that we still have to sort out too, like, the kitchen. The kitchen area is, one of those things where there's been some renovations about 20 years ago, but then there's some areas of it that are in pretty poor shape. So that kitchen might be something that we take a tour of here at some point, like we do a 5:30 start and just go in there and look at it. So we can have Mr. Williams show us around and give us a guided tour of what it's looking like right now. Another thing is we want to make sure, going back to doing it right, when we first rendered some of these things, there's a net loss, I think, Yancey, of what, 7 classrooms?
Yes.
And so we want to make sure that we're not losing a bunch of classrooms, to where we're trying to think about building something for growth. And what causes that is the fact that a lot of the rooms we have in the high school right now are not ADA compliant. They're small. And so when you build them the right size, you get fewer of them. But we've got to make sure that we're not cutting down so many to where it's not functional. And so, again, we're holding right now. It's just on hold. We're not being billed anymore. We've been careful. We've still got we're in constant contact with the architects and the builders, make sure we've still got a good relationship. They know that we're on stall because of the superintendent search. But they know too that they're just kind of waiting for word from us when we want to keep proceeding. So we're in a good spot.
If we do the $9 million, how will that affect our rating? And where we've got such a good rating right now, what will it do to us?
Daryl, should be
That's not going to affect the rating.
no impact. So. And one thing I appreciate about Daryl is physically he's very conservative. He's going to tell us the amount of money that we need to keep reserved to where we're in good shape. So I trust him, and I know you guys too, to give us that right number. Well, Daryl, do you want to lead into the more specific? Yes.
You have the floor.
All right. My presentation is a PowerPoint, and I have placed the PowerPoint presentation in your packets. There at your desks. We're calling it the Gatesville ISD High School renovation. We call it HS Reno. That's kind of a, what's that? Sealing the deal? Yeah. Seal the deal. GHS.
I didn't know you were in marketing.
Carol's like a televangelist.
Well, we've been talking about this for a while now. It's time to seal the deal.
Yeah.
All right, so this is coming from me, from the CFO. I'm going to first of all give you a little timeline for this last project that's been taking place for the past year or so. Of course, I think the renovation of high school has been something that I've heard about ever since I moved here in 2007. So it's something we've known for a long, long time, that the high school eventually is going to need some renovation. The elementary took precedent when we did that, because it was much older even than the high school and much worse shape. So this latest renovation project that we're going to talk about tonight started on March 26th. That's the date of the board meeting in March. That's the first quarter of 2018. And this is when the concept of this renovation was first introduced to the board and to the public, basically. It was given as a price tag of $13.5 million, and the funding was promised to be 100% out of fund balance. The board at that same meeting approved issuing an RFQ, which stands for Request for Qualifications for an Architectural Service for the firm, which we did. So this all started in the first quarter of 2018, March 26. In the second quarter, a couple of months later, in May 21, the estimate is revised upward a little bit, and this is brought to the board's attention to $14 million. And the school board approves the architect selection. who is WRA, which is a firm out of Dallas, as our architect firm. The next month, in June 18, you approved what we call the method of delivery, which is called the Construction Manager at Risk, or acronym CMAR. And the board approved that at the June 18 meeting, and also approved the issuing of an RFQ for a construction manager. Oops. July 24th, my anniversary. WRA presents the initial renderings, and we were kind of wowed, actually. It's the very first time that they brought some schematics to the table here at the admin office, and we were all pretty excited about it. I think they brought 2 or 3. The square footage was approximately 52,000 square feet, and there was no cost attached to it at that point. That was to be determined. August 20, the school board approves Masonic, which is a Waco construction firm, as our CMAR. And nearly the last day of August, August 30, the school board officially commits $12.5 million from fund balance for the high school renovation project. In the fourth quarter of 2018, on November 6, WRA Architects presents the first official schematic drawing, which was 60,000 square feet at a cost of $17 million. And we rounded it up to $18 million. I'll go over why we rounded up $1 million here in a little bit. On the 15th of November, WRA presents a revised schematic drawing to the GISD management. And when I'm saying GISD management, these were not presented to the board. These were just presented to GISD management. So there was nothing that was actually presented to the board in the month of November. WRA presents revised schematic drawings to GISD management down to 54,000, so a few more square feet at a cost of $15 million. So they shaved it out, about $2 million off, still considerably more than what we could afford out of fund balance. November 24, the Gatesville Messenger, thank you, publishes a major story, which is the Saturday after Thanksgiving, on the high school renovation plans. The article mentions up to an $18 million figure, so this is the first time the public became aware of the $18 million figure. And again, the narrative was that it was all going to be paid for out of fund balance. So that basically ends the fourth quarter as far as disclosure on this project to the public. Oh, just got a couple more here. December 17, the school board approves the contracts with WRA and Masonic. Those had not been previously approved, but they were approved at the December 17 board meeting. School board, at that same board meeting, receives the financial audit for the year ending 2018 and discovers that we have overcommitted on the high school renovation project. So the school board lowers its commitment to the high school renovation to $11.5 million from the original $12.5 million. And that was in order to stay in compliance with the minimum 2 months operating expenses required in unassigned fund balance per TDA. That's the minimum. December 18, WRA submits design development plans to GISD, and this is management, based upon a 2-phase approach. So at this point now, it was like, okay, we're going to do it in 2 phases. We'll do part of it now and another part later. Still, the figure came in at $14 million on December the 18th.
That's for the first phase, or for both?
First phase. First phase. So, why round up the cost by $1 million? Because we get these figures from the architects and the construction company, and I've always said, whatever they say, add another $1 million to it. And these are my reasons. The architect and the CMR's cost estimates were soft costs. They call them soft costs. Not too soft sometimes, but they're soft to them because we're the ones that are paying for them. They're not included in their budgets, but they're going to go ahead and try to estimate what your soft costs are going to be. And I'm figuring that they have at least underestimated soft costs by $500,000. Soft costs are things like furniture, fixtures, and equipment, technology, infrastructure, and equipment, asbestos abatement, and that one alone has gone all the way from 100,000 to 500,000. The range of the price difference in terms of that. And that could be a very costly item, asbestos abatement. You never really know until you get into it. Engineering services for geotechnical investigation and material testing, temporary classroom rentals, HVAC testing and balancing, and plan reviews and inspections. So there's a lot of stuff in there that we're actually responsible for. And it behooves them to really be too accurate with that because it's not their responsibility. But that's why I say I want to make sure, because on the elementary school, we didn't put enough in there for soft costs. And we came back and it was about $500,000 over on the elementary project. So we don't want to make that mistake again. Also, the CMFR only budgets a 3% contingency cost in their budget. A 5% contingency cost would add $250,000 in the cost. And what could affect that? Well, the rise of construction costs. They're telling us the construction costs are going to rise 1% a month. So the longer we put this project off, the longer it takes to do, they're saying you can add 1% construction cost a month. That's what's happening out there in the construction world. Unforeseen complexities of renovating such an old campus. The more we got to take a look at it, whether it be from technology to electricity, it's a very complex project. And you really don't know until you fully get into it and start tearing it down and rebuilding what all is going to be involved. And so we need to have a little bit here padded for some unforeseen events. Potential too for future change orders as assumptions needs may change. This happened on the elementary project. You know, we have these plans, but then you get down to it and it's like, oh, you know, we really would rather have 2 doors there instead of 1 door. You kind of get into those kind of decisions. I don't know why we just had 1 door there. And so you have these change orders that happen at the end, toward the end of the project. And then possible delays in the construction timetable. All these are reasons to pad it at least $1 million. All right, cost estimates versus our fund balance. Current cost estimates range from 17 to 18 million, and I'm excluding the 2-phase approach. The 2-phase approach, basically, we didn't have enough to pay for phase 1. So we would drain all of our fund balance, only have phase 1, be 7 classrooms short, and I have no money to do the phase 2. That's not very smart. So we said, forget the 2-phase. We're going to try to do it, let's do it right, do it all at one time. So we're only going to present the 1 phase. Available fund balance is more conservatively estimated at $9 million. Now I know the board committed 11.5 in December, but that's barely 2 months of operating, which is the minimum. You add another month in there, and that gets you down to the $9 million. Gives you another month of operating expenditures as a cushion for the school district. That provides 3 months operating expenditures instead of minimum 2. The final paragraph there, GISD management now recommends funding the entire high school renovation project in 1 single phase via a combination of fund balance and bond issuance. Approximately, if we're going with 18 million, roughly 9 million each. The practical funding solution, plan for an $18 million project. If it comes out less, that's great. You'll have some money left over to do some other things. Use $9 million for fund balance, the max. Finance $9 million through a bond issue. Complete the entire project all at one time. And although a bond election is still possible for this coming May, it's not very practical. As you'll see in the deadlines. More realistically, we're looking at a bond election earliest probably in November of 2019. That would set August 21 as the projected completion date for the project. So it's basically setting it back 1 year from where we originally started. Here's how a $9 million bond will impact taxpayers. Based upon a 20-year amortization, our interest and sinking tax rate would increase 8.5 cents. It is currently 13.7, and it would put us to 22.2. The state allows 50 cents for INS, and we would be at less than half of the state allowance. The impact on a home value at $100,000 before exemptions would be $63.75 a year, or $5.31 a month. our total tax rate would increase from $1.17 to $1.26.2. We take a look at our tax rate and we try to rank us and see how we compare to other groups. And the tax rate for Gatesville ISD has historically been quite low. And in fact, we're at the bottom of the rankings in terms of the lowest. Higher ranking, I think Mr. Irwin mentioned. That's a good thing, to have a low tax rate. So you'd be at the high end, depends on your point of view. But as far as the state, currently our INS tax rate of 13.7 is, we are in the 36th percentile. Region 12, we're at the 28th percentile, and our wealth cohort, 28th. So I have a group of about 100 districts across the state of Texas that are basically in our, pretty much our same demographic and wealth students ratio, and we are almost the same in that cohort as we are in Region 12. Pushing it to 22.2 cents on the INS will push us into the 53rd for state, and 45th for Region 12, 44th for the wealth cohort. So we'll still be at or below the 50th percentile on the INS rate. But really what matters, because they're playing games a lot of times with these INS rates and the M&O rate. And you hear a lot of districts now are doing these swaps where they're getting voters to change it from an INS to an M&O rate. When you do that, the INS only lasts until the end of the bond, whereas M&O is forever. So, you know, if you swap some INS tax cents for some M&O tax cents, the M&O is going to be permanent. And of course, that's the benefit to the school district, to get the taxpayers to agree to do it. I don't think we're there at this point. But the total tax rate then is what we want to take a look at. We will go from $1.13.7 to $1.26.2. At the state level, we are at low, 27th percentile. We will go to 42nd, still in the bottom half. Region 12, we're at the 19th. We will go to the 34th. Wealth cohort, 18th to 30th. So we'll still be about roughly in the bottom third of the school districts in terms of our overall tax rate. All right, so here's the deadlines for calling a bond election. Call them in May, and call them in November. May, is almost impossible because February 15th is the deadline to issue the call from the board. So between today and February 15th, there'll be a whole lot of work, a lot of meetings that have to go on for you to call the meeting on the 15th of February to have a May election. So that, that's not very realistic. The November is much more realistic. August 19th is the deadline for the school board to actually vote to call an election. Next step, this is my suggestion as your CFO. You should invite our bond financial advisor, Brian Grubbs, who's out of the Plano area, to come down and make a presentation to you on the bond process. And he can go through the complete timeline and answer your questions a lot better than I can. He's the one that assisted us with our bond in the elementary school. He's very reputable. He works with WRA, and they work together as a team on several other projects. These kind of things, usually you'll work with a bond advisor, and you'll also work with your architect, because the architect will help you with the bond campaign. And so it would be good to probably invite both of these guys down, perhaps individually or at the same time, to make a presentation to you, kind of give you the nuts and bolts of what a bond election campaign would look like. So that's probably a good first step. That's not doesn't commit you. Actions leading up to the call for the bond, though, we recommend a unanimous approval by the board to the intent to call a bond election. For instance, if we were going to call a bond election and you were going to do it on August, then as soon as possible, we'd like to have the board make unanimous approval to show that we intend to do it, so that we can start working on the schematic designs. Because we're basically dead in the water on the schematics now. Everything's on hold. So while you're doing that, they could be working on schematic design. The schematic design was never presented to the school board. And the design development was never presented to the school board. Both of those should have been presented to the school board, and you should have voted for them each time and voted for the approximate estimated budget. So the whole process has been going too fast, and we need to slow it down. We need to revisit those design schemes, not that we have to completely redo them, but we need to revisit them, and we need to bring them to you and let you approve them and let you approve the budgets. So we got 2 stages of the architect designs right there. Where do we stand today? As Barrett so eloquently put it a while ago, the need to renovate the high school's aging facility has been well established for many, many years. We had a facility study done on Huckabee, the architects that helped us on the elementary school, quite a few years ago. And I think those of you who were around then knew of the bad situation that our high school was in and was reported. So that's been a long time ago.
That study, Mr. Frazier, was about this thick and about this much was high school.
Yeah, it was huge. It was a huge report.
Pictures, things that needed to be.
Yeah. So nothing's changed, it's just gotten older. What else do we know? Well, we know that a lot of excitement has been stirred up this year in the community over the prospect that finally something's going to happen. That's obvious. The district has engaged 2 firms. Like Barrett said, we have an architectural firm, we have a construction management firm, and they have already produced some basic designs with cost projections. So it's not like we're starting completely from ground zero. We have done a considerable amount of work. The district, yes, the district is able financially to contribute a substantial amount from fund balance toward this project. Not the entire thing, but we do have substantial reserves that we can make a substantial contribution to the project. The elementary school, we funded that with a $1 million fund balance commitment, and the rest of it was bonds. That's how we did the elementary school. So in this case, we'll be making a much larger commitment of fund balance for the project. However, we have to be real, and realistically, this project will require financing. There's no way around it. So, shall we seal the deal? I say, let's let the Gatesville community decide. Because they're the ones.
Had several people that wanted that when we first started talking about it, that talked to me about it. So why don't we have a say-so about it? I said, well, we're not having to borrow any money. We're spending our tax dollars, we ought to have some say about it. And I can't say that I disagree with them.
Yeah. They need to have say in the schematic and the whole process. And because it's not my decision, it's not Barrett's decision, it's not really y'all's decision. It's the community's decision of what we want to do as a community here with this high school. And I think we all know something needs to be done. But realistically, it is going to take some financing in addition to fund balance. Any questions? Good.
Great.
Good, sold. We sealed the deal.
I think, Daryl, you did a good job. If there was any stakeholder group that would be anxious about this getting done quickly, it'd be the high school faculty. But after talking to a lot of them, the input I get is that we want it done right too. We don't want it rushed, and the pace that we were on was quick. And so this will help us to slow down some, present it to the community, let them decide. And what we commit to you guys is that every step of the process, we're going to keep you guys in the loop by presenting it all to you, where you have to approve it and put your seal on it. That way schematics, design development, it's all going to go before you. And so that way you know what's going on and can weigh in on it.
That didn't happen previously. Are we just in too big a hurry, or?
That'll also allow us to effectively communicate with the community on it.
Right. And like Daryl said, we've made some good progress, but at the same time, we're somewhat in the infancy still, that we need to make some tweaks to the design, to make sure that it's the way we want it. We want it to be right. Thank you, Daryl.
You're welcome.
moving on. Oh, let me say one thing. I had the privilege of going to Ms. Carruthers' class this morning, and it would be nice if the rooms were a little bit bigger. She had less than 22 today, but it was still pretty crowded. And she went all around the room, and she had to kind of, you know, not bump into people. But anyway, it was great. Thank you very much for the invitation. So we're going on to the fleet update.
There's no
Mr. Harper.
PowerPoint. But Marty and I are here to talk about the fleet update. You have the information. He had jokes prepared. I told him, no, let's cut to the chase. We gotta be going. You have the information about the total number of vehicles, mileage, odometer readings, and ridership. If you have any questions about that, we're happy to answer them to you. I didn't plan on reading this to you because you have the information. And so this is just for your information. No action will be taken until we get to the next item on the agenda.
On the mileage, at what point do the buses get to be mileage-wise where it costs more to maintain them than, I mean, how many miles will they run?
I'm driving one every day. It's got 275,000. And that, to me, this particular bus is, I don't know who drove it in the past, but it hadn't been drove like all of them, obviously. Just like a pickup, you know, you can find a good pickup. But I would say somewhere around 250,000 miles, I'd start getting a little concerned. Just because, you know, anything can happen to them. We lost transmission here 2 months ago, and that's $5,800 for a transmission. And if you was to have, you know, you get a bunch of high mileage equipment like that, you could have 4 or 5 instances like that, and then you've got, there's 4 or 5 buses that are down for a week. I think that was gone about a week and a half before we got it back. But you know, you have to use your backup buses, which are your trip buses, and the trips have to wait till the routes are running, you know.
And there's a fleet update timeline that we have the 10-year replacement chart that was approved at an earlier board, and so that's provided for your information as well. But every year we'll look at what our needs are and then come back with a recommendation on what we want to do for that purchasing year. And so if you don't have any more questions about the update, we're fixing to ask for some buses and vehicles, and that's the next item on the agenda. But I want to make sure there's no more questions about the fleet.
Did we get our bus back that's been in repair forever?
No. We do have a part tracking number.
In a word, no.
This is the bus that the air conditioner was ripped off the top, and so we had to get it replaced. And come to find out, they don't build them that way anymore, and because they get ripped off the top. And so they had to go and find a wiring harness, which they've searched high and low, and that's all they keep saying. We're looking for the wiring harness, looking for the wiring harness. They found one. They gave us a tracking on it, January 25th. It's going to be at Bluebird, the manufacturer. They're going to put it together, and then we'll get the bus. So as soon as they get that part, Marty calls them every week, and several times a week. We have our insurance guy calling them too, and so we're trying to get them to speed up and get it taken care of. But that's what the deal is. They don't make them that way anymore, and so they had to find a part from somewhere to get this installed that way. But we're tracking it. Not much of a consolation, but we're trying. Well, if there's no other questions about the fleet update, the next item on there is about the purchase of a special ed bus and some vans. And the information is listed for you. Now on the rotation, it talks about, the fleet rotation chart talks about getting a 72-passenger van. Well, if we get the AC buses, I'm calling it, the ones in repairs, it'll be like getting another bus because it hasn't been in operation on the line all year. And so when we get that one back, it's like getting a new 72-passenger bus back on the line. And then we have our sped buses, which right now we don't have a spare. And so we'll be able to put the older ones as a spare and get the new one back online. And then our vans, it's a strong emphasis on PD, going places and getting better at our craft. All the involvement of the coaches and all the UIL events and all the different things that people go to. Sometimes the vans don't have a very big turnaround. When we went to our training at MCC, we all piled into a truck because all the vans were taken up. And so we're wanting to make sure that we have vans so that we can keep continuing to support all those different endeavors. And so that's why the recommendation is to approve the purchase of a special ed bus and 3 vans, and the prices are listed there for you.
many seats are on a special ed bus? Is that the small bus, got the wheelchair lift in the back and all that?
This particular one's got 47 seats, but it can handle 3 wheelchairs. Of course, it can't handle 47 passengers with 3 wheelchairs. You have
Right,
to
yeah,
take
seats
some of the seats.
remove.
Yeah. Where most of the ones we've got just can handle 1 wheelchair at a time. And that's been created some issues in the past.
And Marty, you have a board that's very supportive of the transportation department. And so anytime you feel like there's a need, please speak up.
Okay, sure will.
And the special education numbers grow, the numbers we have on the routes, and so they've been taking the vans also, so more vans are on the routes, delivering students home.
So Darrell says we have the money?
We have the requisitions ready to go, it's been earmarked, and
So we need a motion?
Can I ask a
Yes.
question?
Yeah.
Not purchasing that 72 is not gonna throw us behind the curve on keeping the fleet up to date?
I don't think so. If we get this air conditioning
Because of
bus
what you were
back-
saying about.
that bus only has 19,000 miles and it's still like a new one.
Gotcha, okay.
Now,
Thanks.
what are we purchasing?
special education bus and 3 vans.
And not a 72 passenger bus?
Correct.
Have we ordered buses? So when did we talk about this?
About this time last year.
December, we talked about buses that were supposedly ordered, not ordered, canceled. I don't know what the order was. Are those buses not ordered or are they ordered?
We've got 2 buses from this time last year that we talked about. We got them back in December. They both
You
come
got
in.
them.
We got those.
And then there was some more buses that you had the bid on that had a cutoff date.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, that was
January.
this sped bus and 3 vans.
That's this. So now we're talking about buying these buses again. We done talked about buying these buses once, haven't we? Which way?
Yeah, we've talked about purchasing buses, but now we're ready to go and we've presented it to you to
Okay.
approve.
So,
Why are we nixing the 72 passenger bus?
Looking at the fleet, we're gonna get that bus back, and so we're gonna, it's an expenditure that we don't need in order to keep the fleet going. But next year, we'll get 2 new 72 passengers and we'll be back on track. Every year, we wanna evaluate our timeline to be able to look at it and make sure that we're being responsible.
And you never know what's gonna happen to a bus or
Right.
during the year,
Mhm.
you know?
And we've got, we have trip buses that we can pull, and they do a great job of keeping the fleet going. And so if Marty felt like he needed it, he would have requested it. So.
I'm requesting what I feel like we need for this year to make it, and then next year we can start back buying 2 of the big buses and go from there.
so this cost is listed as 175,316.
Total cost, yes, ma'am.
I didn't try to spend all the money this time.
Okay, you left us some good things.
You should have spent all you had.
Okay, we've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Rob, second. Linda? Any more discussion?
So did the price go up from that bid you had, or how'd you come out?
They went up a little bit. I mean, I think it's $1,000, $1,500 from those last 2. But they just
Total or each?
Each. I mean, that last year, I think those 2, I think one of them was 97, one of them was 98. And then this year, they're like 97 and close to 99. Well, this one here is just 98 for that sped bus.
And you feel like the purchase of these 3 vehicles will be sufficient to transport our students as we need to do it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the 3 vans, are those just like Chevrolets or something?
Grand Caravan.
Chrysler, Dodge, Caravan.
And there's some with the stow and go, so we can haul equipment with it. And there's also some that are maximized just with the bench seats, so we can maximize the ridership.
What do you feel like's the best? You said General Motors and all that. What do you think's the best right now?
As far as the vans?
Yeah. What van are
We've
you
had a
looking
pretty good
at?
look out of these. We've got 4 or 5 of them over there now. We haven't had hardly any
And
trouble.
they're what? Chevrolet or
No,
Dodge.
They're Dodge.
And we got quotes on vans that the dealer could get their hands on quickly. It's here local, and we can get them as soon as we get the purchase going in.
Any more questions? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Don't come back next month.
And Mr. Webb with the greenhouse purchase.
All right.
Information.
Well, I'm not quite coming to you with a purchase just yet, but I'm gonna come to you to request to start getting an RFP, to start getting a quote or bids for a new greenhouse. So I've got Ms. Phillips here. She handles our plant science horticulture program at the high school, and so she's gonna help me answer any questions. But before we get to the greenhouse piece, I just want to give you just a little bit of an update of our CTE programs and funding and kind of how we've been spending our money the past 3 or 4 years. So I've given you a little update right here about CTE funds generated since 2010. And we went back to 2010 because that was Mr. Frazier's first year as CFO. So again, CTE funds are generated by students that are sitting in CTE classes, and depending on what level class you're in, whether you're in a first year class or a 4th year class, generates more funding each time you move up a level. And so when you look at 2010, all the way to 2015 there, we generate anywhere from 785 to the max of 860 there, back down to 723 in 2015. And Mr. Westbrook, you may be able to help me a little bit on some of this, because I know there was some discussion at some point.
I've slept since then.
I know over some coding, and so
Yes.
I know that was some discussion at one point. But we began CTE coding changes again in the 2015-2016 year. Got us back up to about 861,000. 16-17 is when we moved to the 8-period day, and it generated our funding jumped all the way up to $1.33 million. 17 and 18, we added health science, criminal justice, and engineering, and our funding jumped to 1.577. And then our projected allotment this school year is almost $1.7 million. And so when you look at these numbers here, we have to spend 58% of these totals that you see. That encompasses all your salaries, all your budgets for your CTE programs, and this is how we've been able to renovate some of our programs based on the funds that we've generated. And so, does anybody have any questions regarding this before we move forward?
This is the actual classroom size, the number of kids participating in welding.
In CTE programs, yes, sir.
That's directly proportional to the funding.
Correct.
It's nice that we
So
have
this
to
is
spend money.
right now we have 12 programs, 12 CTE programs, and this is generated from kids sitting in those classrooms. So I added notes on those others just because I know those were changes that have been made over the past several years. Okay.
It's not all new money.
What's that?
Make sure they know it's not all new money.
Yeah, it's not all new money. You'll have to explain that, Mr. Frazier, how that works. It's not all new money because it's not.
Well, CTE gets rated higher, but whatever money that they're giving you in CTE is basically coming out of regular ed. So they would move those courses from a regular ed funding to a CTE funding. So you lost a lot of your regular ed funding.
Even though you gained the water.
And it went into your Kate funding. But there is a weighted factor for Kate. It's weighted higher than a regular ed class. So you get some money, extra money, but all that money there is not new money. I just want to make sure y'all know that.
But it does generate.
But it does generate.
It does generate some new money. Some new money.
But then you're required to spend it. Okay.
So we kind of created an obsolescence plan. We built a CTE plan this year. This is kind of how we spent it and kind of how we plan to spend it over the next few years. But we started in the 2015-16 school year, and we had about $40,000 that we spent on automotive technology, on some equipment. 16-17 was the big upgrade in the welding program, where we spent about $250,000 on that. 17-18 last school year, we spent about $80,000 on construction, about 30,000 on health science, about 65,000 on animal science, about 15,000 on engineering, 10,000 on horticulture on some new tables and chairs for the classroom, and then automotive tech, construction, welding. We spent about $50,000, and that's that paint booth that we just installed. That we're still in the process. We're almost there of having that thing ready to go with the help of Mr. Fincher. So 18-19, this is kind of what it's projected. We're projected at about $280,000 that we have to spend, or that we need to spend. And the big thing is horticulture. And so you see I've got about $200,000 right there that we want to spend for horticulture. Engineering, give or take 30,000. Auto tech about 20, and then you'll see auto tech will be next year, will be a big year for them. They'll roughly have around 120. Right next year I just put 200,000 as a number. It's probably going to be more than that. We just don't know until we get into number and we know what our estimates are. And so I've got it planned out through 2021 right now, and we'll just kind of go from there as we move forward. But what I'm here to talk to you guys tonight about, so does anybody have any questions over any of this so far?
So you have $280,000 in the account that has to be spent, or are we losing?
Correct. Well, we have to spend $280,000, or we could potentially lose funding. Get a slap on the hand. We don't know because we've never gotten to that point. So we make sure. But this is how we've been able to continue to upgrade our facilities in these programs. All right.
With the added course of the criminal justice, that's not figured into this anywhere. Is that correct?
It is, yes, sir.
Oh, well, I didn't see any money allotment for.
Well, we haven't gotten there yet. I don't have them on. We may be past 2021 because it's the first year for criminal justice. So right now it's just the entry level class. Next year it'll be the intro to criminal justice and law enforcement 1. So we're just kind of gonna grow it each year. We didn't want to. So, and again, the chart there, it's always subject to change. We just kind of look at what our needs are. So I know that's kind of what we kind of have planned, but there's always a chance, we may not spend all 30,000 engineering, and it may have to leave some funds for some other things, or it may not take $200,000 to build a greenhouse. All right, so I want to talk to you about our current greenhouse. And so, and just some of the issues that we have, we really don't know, and some of you guys may know, we don't know when our current greenhouse was built.
94.
About 94. Okay. And so it's approximately about 28 by 60 feet. Soil ground with walkways. The soil gets in the walkways, the weeds get really bad inside there. It's currently located at the junior high, so travel time from the high school to and from the class to the greenhouse is give or take 10 plus minutes of the class time for them. What's that?
One way.
One way. There's a heater and exhaust fan and thermostat that's not working properly. If you scroll down, Dr. Pollard, to the pictures, in one of those pictures there's the doorway with a heater right above the doorway, and when that heater kicks on, it vibrates and shakes, and so it's right above where kids are walking in, so that can be, that cannot be, be very safe sometimes. It takes extra chemical to treat insect outbreaks. There's numerous holes in the plexi, that have breaks in the structure. The evaporation pads in the back crystallize due to lack of water traveling up the pipe. And they're always having to fix the pipes inside them. The water lines break often, and the shade cloth needs replacing. And so what we are proposing is to send out an RFP to request for proposals, to request for quotes to build a new greenhouse. And we were looking at, we would like to build something in the range approximately 30 feet by 80 feet with a solid concrete foundation that has drains in the foundation, that you have tables inside of it and your plants go on there. It would be an 8mm twin polycarbonate panels and not glass panels, because glass panels can tend to break, throw rocks or something. It'll have, it'll be ADA compliant with big sliding doors, metal roll-up door to where you could be able to drive maybe not a truck, but a gator or some sort where you can pull that up to the doors of the greenhouse. It'll be a steel frame with circulation fans, gas heaters, environmental cooling and ventilation system. It'll be like a sprinkler system that you run at your house, maybe even cooler than that. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty neat, and it comes with engineered calculations. And so what happens is you send out the RFP, you get a quote on the greenhouse, and it's just for the greenhouse. And so what happens is we still have to, they'll send us the engineered calculations, and we still have to have the foundation poured, the concrete ran for it, and we still have to do the electrical and the plumbing for it. And so once we purchase the greenhouse, or say we're going to purchase it, sign the contract, it takes them about 14 to 16 weeks to manufacture. You get the engineered calculations, we can get the pad built, the foundation, get the electrical ran, the plumbing ran, and then when they have it ready, they come in and they install it, like a Lego set, and put it all together. And so approximately, we have approximately about $200,000. I've gotten a couple quotes because I've had to get just some quotes just to help us build the RFP. Mr. Fraser's going to help me build the RFP, just so we know what we need to request in a new greenhouse. And so I've gotten a couple different estimates. It can range from just the structure alone, $135,000 to over $200,000. That's not including the foundation or the plumbing or electrical. But I think we can get it. I think we can get it done with what we're wanting for around $200,000. Talked to Toby. Toby thinks the foundation will come in around $30,000. All the concrete work, about $12,000 for the electrical or so, and maybe $10,000 or so, $12,000 on plumbing. So it could be a little bit less, but we'll want to put a nice fence area around it, and we're proposing putting it next to Autotech. The grassy area as you're walking out to the art building, just right outside there, putting it right there where the class would just be able to walk down the alleyway and be able to get to the greenhouse, as opposed to having to walk all the way over here to the gym. And that's kind of a picture of what it would look like. I pulled it up off the website. It wouldn't be, that's like a double, that's probably 60-foot long one. And I've got Ms. Phillips up here to help me answer any questions that you guys might have. So I would come back to you next month. I'm asking for to approve to send out an RFP, and I would come back to you next month with a bid, ask for approval to move forward with the project.
The variance in the prices, you're talking from 130,000 to 2.
Yeah.
Where?
I couldn't really say, Mr. Westbrook. I honestly think that maybe one of the companies I talked to might have been a really high-end greenhouse company.
Okay.
That's all. I don't know. He actually came out and met with me and talked to me. I said, I just need some guidance because we don't really know what we're doing when it comes to building the greenhouse.
Don't ever tell him that.
I talked to the other company I got was who did Belton's greenhouse, and so I think we'll be able to get a pretty reasonable price on it.
If you put this where you're talking about, if my memory serves me correctly, there's a great big drain in the middle of that deal. Is that going to create a problem on making a foundation, or?
I don't think so, because I think that drain is on the end, on the north end, and so Toby, do you see any?
It's kind of right in the middle.
Right in the middle.
It's a culvert that goes under that road behind where the old agriculture shop is back there. So really, that's going to help us because we can incorporate that into the foundation. Actually, use that for the drain to shed the water out.
Because the engineered calculations on your foundation on the concrete pad will have a slight slope that will drain for water to drain.
There's going to be drains inside the building to, and it's all just, we talk to the city, everybody seems to be happy with that. So.
For the heat is gas. You're going to use gas, right? Is it back there on that side?
Gas.
It is.
Gas.
Gas, right on the roof there of the Autotech shop. Come over and down.
The electrical's there because when we upgraded the welding, we had to make sure we had plenty of electrical there.
So you're actually gonna have 20 extra minutes of class time.
Possibly.
That's good.
That's a big deal for me.
And again, I'm just asking for permission to send out an
So we
RFP.
need a motion for
We
permission?
need, his recommendation is that we approve to send out a request for a proposal, an RFP for the new greenhouse.
Well, I would like to make that motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
David, Charles, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see you next month.
We sure appreciate it. So hopefully we'll have some,
Thank you.
a recommendation, next month with a good quote to begin the project.
All right,
Thank y'all.
Thank you, guys.
okay, we're gonna go after a short break, how about 5 minutes? That we're gonna go for executive session down the hall, so you all can stay in here if you want to. I think there's some cookies, maybe? Oh, yeah. Help yourself, and we'll be down the hall. Thank you. 8:26, Marcy, I think.